Let's go back looking at some of the founding fathers of the country. Nnamdi Azikiwe of blessed memory is one of such great Nigerian. And he wrote in the West African Pilot, "Show the light and the people will follow." He understood the import of that. That was why he did say that. And again, it comes back to the presidency and his team. What light are they showing? Automatically, definitely the people will follow if they're showing the light. That's why we're talking about the man known as the bulldozer. He's been out there on the street working, and people say, you are the bulldozer, and that's the light, and we'll follow you.
If you watch what's going on now, take for instance, the Tenders Journal. You could see that the Tenders Journal is bulkier now. Why is it bulkier? Because President Muhammad Buhari had told all the ministries, departments and agencies, you must advertise and follow the procurement process. As we have always said, democracy is not a revolution. It's no more the president that could say immediate effect. He's saying this is the rule of law. And that in a trickle of months that is coming, you will see the deliverables. We just have seen where a lot of companies that are engaged in construction, they're back to work, but limited because of the collapse of the oil price. It's unfortunate that we depended on a mono economy, where we relied on crude oil, and if it gyrates at the international market.
But your party was aware of all of that. I mean, your party knew, the APC was aware the prices of oil were already falling before when they were asking for the votes of Nigerians. And some of the things, some of the lofty promises that your party made, Nigerians did ask, how are you going to fund it? The only answer we got was that you're going to cut corruption, you're going to stifle corruption, and that the monies will be used or invested to try and get back the Nigerian economy. How come we're now being told about how Nigeria is a mono economy? Nigeria has always been a mono economy.
No. Get it right. Let me give you an example of the little agency where I was appointed to manage. The Voice of Nigeria used to have 8 transmitters working, giving news across the globe for 24 hours. In spite of all the big budgets of the previous years, it's only 2 that is working. 8 crashed.
6 crashed, you mean?
6 crashed. It's only 2 that is working. When on the air, only 6 hours. And when Mr. President called me for an assessment of where I went to, and I told him, he was shocked. So the point is that we were aware, but we didn't know how deep the rot is. Do you know that when some monies were paid, the major construction companies told the government of Nigeria that they were not paid since 2014. Some like Julius Berger had gone over 200 billion, and the little money you got, you paid like 20 or 13. Julius Berger said, where do we start from? He wants us to be back to work. We had thought that the debts were very narrow. The debts are not narrow. Do you know that the joint venture oil companies, go and ask them, since 2012. So the point is that you cannot, in any circumstance, think that somebody will make defense money budgeted for procurement as a slush fund, a bank slush fund, that it went to people's hand. Were you not there? On May 13th, 2010, when publicly the then Minister of Finance and Coordinating Economy had a handshake with the Chinese, awarding what they call the 3 greenfield refineries. One was to be located in Bayelsa, one in Lagos, one in Kogi. And we were on the street clapping for the then President Jonathan. What happened later? At $23 billion. By then, in the coffers of the excess crude account of the Federation was $17 billion. Nobody asked what happened to that $17 billion. We thought, for such an excess crude account is still there, because we had no access. Even when the then governor of Central Bank, the Emir of Kano, shouted, it took a lot of Nigerians, they thought he was shouting horse. So the point is not about what we promised. It is about the fact that we are still going to deliver what we promised. But we are saying, even if we return back to the oil windfall, what is the attitude?
Just let me comment again here, Mr. Okechukwu. The thing here is that for Nigerians, but very quickly here about the Tenders Journal, a point here is that was introduced by President Goodluck Jonathan. Perhaps maybe it wasn't out there. I still recall it was President Goodluck Jonathan who introduced the Tenders Journal. But how can Nigerians do anything differently, without an example somewhere? If you don't, maybe it's like the home, the father figure. If you have a father who is not that good, how can the child learn anything good? So perhaps we should have someone who's like a mirror for us to see. Are we getting that from the government?
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that President Muhammadu Buhari introduced the Tender Journal. What I was saying is the bulk, the size. The size shows you that jobs that were given under the table in the days of yore is no more the case. That now you must follow the Procurement Act. And it says you must advertise and you must give at least 6 weeks. Because that 6 weeks is because in the past some people are giving jobs to their friends. They advertise and say you must enter your papers in 2 weeks. And they have informed their friends that a tender is coming. They don't want that. So if you have those timings and the deliverables, don't forget as well that there's also the law also says that you cannot mobilize more than 15%. So if you have to follow the rules, it will be as if you are slow. But President Muhammadu Buhari is not slow. It's about following the rules of the law. If he doesn't, at the same time we'll come back to do studio, where some people will say he has returned to his dictatorial era as a military head of state, that he doesn't obey the rules, that he's giving jobs to Mr. Osita, Okechukwu and the others as he wants. He doesn't want that. But we're saying in the fullness of time, the Nigerian people will come to realize what we're doing, because transparency is on the doorstep.
Earlier, you spoke about how, when Nigerians leave the shores of this country and go to other countries, especially Western countries, they immediately conform with the rules there. It looks like there are unspoken rules and everybody seems to conform. But then, people will say that has been done by years of law enforcement not shying away from their responsibilities, so much so that that has now become the traditional, that has become the culture, as it were. Are we trying to shirk our responsibilities, or do you think that the law enforcement agencies will be shirking their responsibilities if we're thinking that preaching, as it were, or exhortation will work in this particular matter?
No. What we're saying, why is it change begins with me? Me does not exclude the police officer on the street. We're saying the police officer is included. We're also saying that citizen is included. Because if we rest on our oars and we do not point out such discrepancies at every level. I was once in Ghana. The banana I bought, I finished, I threw it away. The driver stopped. Taxi driver. And picked up the banana himself. He said, "Oh God, we don't do this there." I said, "But that's a bush." He said, "Whether it's a bush or not, you must keep it for me in the car. When I get there, I'll put it in the dustbin." That's a taxi driver. So we're not saying that is an overnight message, but it's a message that have driven other countries of the world where they are, where everybody collectively, you see the other as a partner. You see the other as also policing. It's not only because you're in police uniform. That's the message. The message is that there must be a rebirth, that we have ethos.
There must be a rebirth, but then people also argue that there has to be consequences for, actions or inactions, as it were.
Yes.
Does this come with some consequence?
Yes.
If people refuse to, abide by the laws, for instance?
The problem we have is what we're trying to deal with. The facts on the ground is that some people will say it's not going to work because it's in their favor if it doesn't work. They have benefited in the past. Where was every man to yourself? God's for all of us. And we're saying no. You're not a nurse. and you're driving by, you see somebody who had an accident, please be of help. You don't need to be a nurse to do so. You don't need to be a policeman to report an issue. That is all we're saying. We're saying that it might not be finished. And if it finishes under Buhari's 8 years or 4 years, that is not even the change we're talking about.
Nigerians have always been...
The change had to be a change that is consistent.
With that instance that you gave, Nigerians have always been law-abiding. They've always done their own part, as it were. But have you looked at some of the obstacles in the path that stops them from doing the right things in certain circumstances? For instance, you talked about reporting or helping an accident victim. Have we talked about, the fact that police reports are sometimes demanded, and that when you do a good deed, it could sometimes backfire? Have you looked at the circumstances around them?
Yes.
We have?
Yes, we have. You ask yourself, why was an AIG made an Inspector General by President Muhammadu Buhari? He went through the records. The present IGP had only one house that could be traced in Lube. Why the rest DIG that people were promoting more than him? Immediately Mr. President saw their properties. He wept. I want to say this because it seems, because Mr. President is not a talking type. Nobody wants to tell anybody the truth anymore.